It's Friday. You know what that means.
Yeah.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 342 of everyone's favorite wrestling podcast, the F and Marks.
I'm Jay. He is.
I am Bucky Beaver today. I don't even know if I even spelled it right, but you know what? I don't even care. Because, Jay, like I was telling you right before we started, I said to you, and I quote, in the previous 341 episodes of this show, I have never, ever, ever wanted to give 2 seconds of time to a certain individual like I'm going to give to today. And it's going to be more than 2 seconds.
Hey, Josh, thanks for tuning in. Josh from Jacksonville, Florida. Tuning in, and he seems psyched that The Rock is back. And we will get into that. We're going to get into that. But I know that you have a lot of things on your chest, on your shoulders, and specifically on your teeth that you need to get off.
So we're just going to go right into it.
Say whatever damn thing you want.
I just want to be known that I have never, in my 35 plus years of being a fan of WWF/WWE, have I ever been as happy with a tear in my eye. Monday was the greatest day of my life. Woo!
And why was that, Brainless one?
In the words of Jean-Raphael Saperstein, the worst. Kevin Dunn, the worst employee in the history of WWE, has announced that he is retiring from WWE.
And it was immediate.
Yeah, he basically sent out the email on New Year's Eve, and on New Year's Day, they announced that he retired. It's an absolute damn shame. I can't believe that damn dude had been there for so long. That dude did such a damn bad job as executive of production for WWE for 40 years. The man had no damn clue how the wrestling business worked. The man had no damn clue how to look up for people with talent. The man had no damn clue other than to continue to shove his beaver fucking head up Vince McMahon's ass, rub people the wrong way, and build fucking dams. And for me, this is a great day because I never have to see that bucktooth beaver fuck at all. I don't have to see him online. I don't have to see him on TV. I don't have to see him in documentaries. I never have to see this motherfucker again. Number two, I don't have to ever experience the shaky camera when something is happening. Unless it's in Sacramento and that crowd is that crowd, there's no reason for that camera to be shaking the way it does. And number three, and I cannot express how important number three is to me. We will never, ever, ever get the shot of a crowd to ruin somebody's either debut or long-awaited return. And you know what? As far as it comes with his retirement, it's about damn time.
You know, when Vince announced his retirement, that ended up not really being a retirement.
Pal.
I said that it would be 6 months or less before Kevin Dunn would be gone. The thing I didn't realize at the time, that Vince the whole time was, angling a way to get back into the company. And I think that that's why Triple H and Stephanie and Nick Khan kept Bucky Beaver around. Once the deal with Endeavor officially went through, which was in September, how many months after that and after Ariel neutered Vince was Bucky Beaver gone? Less than 4 months.
Yeah.
So, and Jeff literally last week said Kevin Dunn's days in the company are numbered, and it was like a day or two later that like it was officially announced. There weren't even rumblings going into last weekend. Good times. And you know what? Like, there were certain things production-wise that he came up with that were innovative, that were good. He figured out camera angles to be able to tell whatever story for whatever special attraction they had. But the damn shaky camera. It was the shaky camera with the zoom in and zoom out. Zoom in, zoom out. While you're going up and down, left and right. I'm surprised they did not have shaky cam sponsored by Dramamine.
The only time
they sponsor everything else. Everything else gets sponsored. The Pitch Black match. The Cinnamon Toast Crunch Stairs match. They couldn't have the Dramamine shaky cam sponsorship. I mean, can you imagine Michael Cole after they did that, where like they had a image of him and Corey Graves on the desk, and like, and make sure that after we do this, you take your Dramamine. I mean, they have the Mountain Dew there. They had the episodes where they would have Kentucky Fried Chicken. Why not have them take Dramamine? Make sure they don't get motion sick watching the damn show.
Oh, they got
cutting away in the middle of a move. Or cutting away to the crowd when, we got AJ Styles making his debut to the company. Oh, we've got Edge returning after it was believed that he was done forever.
Oh, look, a fan.
Because it was more important to see the fan than the fans with Edge. Dakota, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you checking out the podcast. Make sure you give a like, a subscribe, and any comments or questions you may have, put it in the chat, and we will do our best to answer.
Cousin Jay, I need that now in my life. I need for them to be calling a match at some random pay-per-view at either No Mercy or Bad Blood or whatever of the other secondary.
Great Balls of Fire.
And I need the bottles of Dramamine in front, or Mylanta, or Pepto-Bismol. And it's like, if you're dealing with an upset stomach after watching all that bullshit, drink Pepto. And there's Michael Cole drinking Pepto-Bismol.
Well, you know.
And they just, at this point, though, if they're going to keep up with this sponsorship, they really have to make sure they never do one with Trojan. Because that's just not going to be a good look. Them sitting there on Monday Night Raw and there's just like condoms everywhere. And then they do the dastardly thing where Baron Corbin is a heel, puts a freaking condom over Roman Reigns' head. It'd be just as bad as the dog food that they poured on his head.
Whenever I think of condoms and anything, it makes me think of the movie From Dusk Till Dawn. And they filled the condoms with holy water to go against the vampires. I thought it was a nice touch. Very Quentin Tarantino feel and vibe. I think it was Richard Rodriguez who actually directed that movie, but Quentin Tarantino starred in it, and I'm like, oh, that feels like Quentin Tarantino came up with that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know, back during the Attitude Era, I could see them having a water balloon fight with condoms.
I'm surprised they never did.
Yeah. I mean, they had pillow fights and all that stuff.
We saw what Pat Patterson and Gerald Briscoe did back in the Attitude Era. We don't need to wonder why they did or didn't do anything. They gave us such horrible, horrible, horrible things in the 90s.
Yeah.
But I will say this, since I'm on the topic of the 90s, and then we can finish off with Bucky Beaver and everything like that. I was going to mention this before the show, but then I got sidetracked by a damn beaver. Do you know what yesterday was?
Yesterday was January 4th.
Do you know what happened on January 4th in 1999?
I can't think of it.
I will give you a hint, and I'm probably going to give it away. January 4th was the turning point in the Monday Night Wars.
Mick Foley winning the championship. Oh, that'll put butts in the seats. Yes, it will, Tony Schiavone.
Now, I've known that for 25 years, that was the turning point when Mick Foley became WWE champion, and basically everything, all the negativity and all the bullshit in WCW was becoming more and more apparent that it was happening, and Vince Russo got there. I was yesterday days old when I found out, after WCW pulled that stunt, what the main event of the show that night was. Do you want to happen to take a guess what WCW counteracted Mick Foley winning the WWE Championship?
Was that Finger Poke of Doom night?
That was the same night Hulk Hogan won the WCW World Heavyweight Championship with the Finger Poke of Doom, the most dangerous move in the history of wrestling.
Scott Steiner's favorite move.
I will forever to this day, and I'm so glad that yesterday was the 25-year anniversary because it still haunts me to this day. I will never get the sight of Scott Steiner hopping up and down like a little bunny rabbit after Hulk Hogan won in such a horrible, pitiful way to become World Heavyweight Champion. and they had the audacity to call out WWE for making Mick Foley, who was known as Cactus Jack here once upon a time, was named WWE champion. Now, granted, I know that Foley held the title more than a couple times for like a total of 29 days. It doesn't matter how long he held it. Mick Foley winning was the absolute turning point, and then you're going to sit there and you're going to throw shade at WWE when you gave one of the most embarrassing moments in professional wrestling history just so you can stroke the ego of the most egotistical wrestler. And the only reason he's not the most egotistical person in wrestling is because you got that dastardly to let Hulk Hogan win the title the way he did after Kevin Nash took the title from the undefeated Goldberg. That was enough in its own right. Mick Foley winning is one thing, but the fact that WCW was booking the way they were heading into that was also a major factor in the turning point. But I had to mention the fact that yesterday was one of the greatest moments in wrestling history when effing Mark's Hall of Famer Mick Foley became WWE champion.
Yes. Mike Rainey chiming in. Did you guys see that the Bucktooth Beaver is finally leaving WWE? Yes. It is a great day. It's a day we've all been waiting for. I'm praying to God that Shaky Camera is not a part of whoever the new executive producer involved with their video production. Like, I hope the first thing they say is like, let's stop doing that. Let's stop cutting away while somebody's in the middle of a move. I know, like, hey, you're trying to hide the fact that sometimes they don't make contact. There are other angles you could get. So I am looking forward to this new era. As we were mentioning last week, it seemed like since Triple H had full reigns, we got less of like the crowd shots that were like superfluous, that were like, oh, let's just randomly get this shot of the crowd. It seemed like Triple H was more like, dude, we could get some, but stop. If we get the dude with the eyes bulging out of his head, beautiful. If we get Angry Miz Girl, beautiful. But don't pan the crowd and like, oh, nothing's happening.
Those were monumental shots, and I'll give him that. They nailed the Miz girl, and they nailed the guy whose eyes were shot out of his head after the Undertaker lost. I don't need to see Joey in the fourth row going crazy as Edge returns from retirement after being out of wrestling for 9 years with a broken neck. I don't need to see Fred in the eighth row going nuts as AJ Styles debuts in WWE. I popped. I was at work and I popped. They knew I wasn't even working. They knew I was watching a pay-per-view because I popped so hard for AJ Styles' debut, and Bucky Beaver ruined it.
They had to re-edit the stuff for both Edge and for AJ. I have not gone back and watched recently. I'm wondering if the re-edited version is what they have on the network now. So it covers up the fact that there was some damn problems in production.
Yeah, I'm sure that it is updated because we all know that they edited it so that Cassius Ohno did not get stuck between the bottom rope and the frickin' mat in his 7-second loss to Matt Riddle, bro. So it wouldn't surprise me if those were also edited.
Right.
Because I'm still to this day, he was stuck between the bottom rope and the mat.
And you did mention Matt Riddle. Matt Riddle is on his way back to the squared circle in a big way. He's going to have a match in New Japan. He's going to go against Hiroshi Tanahashi.
That is president of New Japan Pro Wrestling, Hiroshi Tanahashi.
So, high-profile match. Riddle says he's going to be changing his moveset. And, like I said when WWE released him, I hope he gets his crap together. I don't know if he's gotten his crap together. He did an interview where he said there was no hard feelings with, at least on his side, with WWE because he's not trying to torch that bridge, even though he kind of did by acting completely unprofessional and acting like a teenager, quite honestly. But I wish him well. He very good performer, fun character, but sounds like a nightmare to deal with.
Bro.
Yeah.
It's funny. I didn't even know that he did that until this morning. Because I saw because I'll tell you right now, because he wasn't the only one that debuted at Wrestle Kingdom. Because Nick Nemeth, formerly known as the man who sells better than anybody in wrestling than Samoa Joe, Dolph Ziggler, also made an appearance at Wrestle Kingdom yesterday and had a confrontation with David Finlay, who is the new. I know that they took like the United States and I think Intercontinental an open weight in the United States and combined it, and it was him, Moxley, and Will Ospreay, and Finlay won the match, confronted Ziggler. They threw punches at each other, after the match, and then they go over to the they go to the press conference after, and David Finlay's talking about it. All of a sudden, you see Dolph Ziggler come flying out of nowhere, jump over the table, and start fighting him.
I love seeing stuff like that. Absolute chaos.
I'm more hyped for what Dolph Ziggler is going to do in New Japan because I think that's a really good landing spot for him. It's just unfortunate because of their partnership with AEW. He's going to be stuck going there too, especially because his brother's there.
I'm psyched to see Dolph in New Japan. I think there are plenty of performers that he'll have great matches with. Dolph already peaked as far as what he'll be in professional wrestling, but he can still put on a damn good match and be the match of the night.
Yeah.
Right now, his job, probably the rest of his career, is to shine people up and put on these great matches. He will have to win some matches here and there. So I don't mind seeing him in AEW going against people he hasn't gone against. Quite honestly, I'd love to see him against Kenny. I think they put on a really good match.
I'm sure the match would be really good, but it'd be the most oxymoron match in the history of professional wrestling because it is the man who sells moves better than anybody else going up against a guy who couldn't sell shit.
And I bet it would be the first time that Dolph gets a 5-star match. If they did it in the Tokyo Dome, it'll be an 8-star match.
I don't even want to hear this with the star ratings anymore. I'm so sick and tired of this. Kurt Angle came out and did an interview recently, and he said that to him, Shawn Michaels versus Kurt Angle at WrestleMania 21 was the greatest wrestling match of all time. I might slightly disagree, but I would say it's in my top 5 favorite matches of all time. And the fact that Kurt Angle has never had a 5-star match is a freaking travesty.
I mean, think of all the matches he had against AJ that were classics in TNA. Like, we're not just talking WWE. He even went to Japan and had matches. And I mean, I think during one of the Japan matches, he broke his freaking neck again. But all that being said, Kurt Angle, one of several matches, was definitely 5 stars. All that being said, Dolph Ziggler in New Japan for me is a big win for him. Again, the dude is in his 40s at this point. He has outside interests. So doing time like a tour in Japan, like they go like several weeks at a time and then they'll be off for a while.
Right.
He's not married. So I think it's the perfect place for him to go.
I do too.
Tim says that Dave Meltzer could stick those stars up his bunghole.
And don't worry, we already know from Kenny's past that he'll stick his fingers up there to get those 5 stars.
Yeah.
I don't have I can't say, as much as I want to not hate that man, I can't say enough bad things about him. He's not. If you take away all the eccentric shit that he does in a wrestling match, he's not terrible. He actually has a look about him if you look from the neck down. He can't sell. He can't cut a promo. And he's awful on the microphone. I mean, awful. We're talking Shayna Baszler. Yes, and now the man with the whale orgy song has a stable of all these. I have no idea what the hell's going on. I try to check in just so I don't sound like a dumbass when I'm on here whenever AEW comes up. And it's like, all right, so Kyle Fletcher, the guy who was in that Aussie Open tag team, is in that stable with Don Callis. Sammy Guevara was in it for a day. His wife had a kid. He came back, and now he's teamed up with Jericho again. Don Callis has Konosuke Takeshita, who in the beginning of 2023, I predicted, I said he is going to be my 2023 breakout star, and he didn't even get a sniff on the podcast last week. I don't know. I like Don Callis. Don Callis is somebody who can talk. He's somebody who can lead a faction, but it's like, I like Willie Hobbs, but Hobbs hasn't done shit. Takeshita, I mean, what he had a match with Kenny Omega. Yeah, take a shit, fought Twinkle Toes, and that was like, all right, what else has he done?
Right.
And it is, and it's crazy to think that this is all the stuff that they're booking with, and it's more amazing to me the fact that Deonna Purrazzo debuted on Wednesday, because I'm sitting there talking about the way that they booked the men's division, and they got Purrazzo, who I was like, oh, she's going to WWE. I know I've said in more than one episode that I said she was going to go to WWE. She's really good friends with Chelsea Green. They're like best friends. I said, this is going to be perfect because now the tag team, because it made sense. She dropped the tag team title. She doesn't have to do the thing with Piper Niven anymore. They can bring in Deonna Purrazzo. She's got, she has a good relationship with Triple H because she was booked in NXT. But she goes to AEW? Can anybody, honestly, right now, can anybody name me 5 wrestlers on the female side in AEW without using Britt Baker?
Are they allowed to use Nyla Rose?
Yeah, that's fine. Can anybody name me? Better yet, can anybody name me 5 people in the AEW Women's Division not named Britt Baker without going without sounding like Dan Malloy? Exactly. Because it's like, because you probably get like 3 down, then you're like, Jade Cargill, oh shit, no, she's in NXT. Which, by the way, I saw the videos of her training at the new version of the dungeon.
Yep.
With Ricky Starks, Natty Neidhart, TJ Kidd, Bret Hart's Paperboy, Angelo Dawkins was there. And I love seeing shit like that. I do. Because it just shows the camaraderie between people. I know that kayfabe is dead. And I know it used to be like, oh, this guy hates this person and that guy hates that person.
It was dead a long time ago.
Ho!
Yeah.
But I can't fathom why you wouldn't go to WWE. Because look at it, even if you end up back in NXT for a bit of time, is there a more women's division that's stacked than the NXT women's division?
And beyond NXT in WWE, there's a little space of time that you could get something done as far as moving up the card, with Charlotte Flair being out for sounds like at least 9 months because tore her ACL, MCL, and meniscus. I mean, that
the meniscus is the bad part. I mean, I'm not downgrading.
No, ACL and MCL are the bad ones. Meniscus usually is like 3 or 4 weeks. But when you tear all of those, more or less anything that keeps your knee immobilized or mobilized, like from kind of like moving in all sorts of crazy different directions, like she tore it all. Yeah. So
I just think it's unfortunate because if they had big plans for Charlotte heading into WrestleMania, like if she was supposed to win the Royal Rumble, even though I can't fathom her actually winning it again this year. And it's unfortunate. I could sit here and talk about how they shoved her down everybody's throat, but at the end of the day, I still respect her as a performer. Incredible performer. But I can't understand why, especially because now you have Mercedes Moné possibly going to AEW too. And then the rumors are coming out this week that once Trinity's contract is up in Impact, that we're going to be getting
WWE.
She's going to be, going back to the Glow and dancing and doing her choreographed wrestling moves. I can't wait. Hooray. I don't even know how long she's been gone. And I honestly, nothing personal. I haven't missed her.
It's been since May of 2022. And the conversations with Sasha, a.k.a. Mercedes, it seemed like they were going kind of okay-ish with WWE. And then all of a sudden, they're saying that she was asking for more than what Charlotte was making. Like when Charlotte signed her new contract, she was asking for more than what Charlotte got, which to me was either her way of trying to see if they would adhere to that, or just like it was her way of saying no thanks. Like, I'm going to ask above and beyond what I'm actually worth. Although I think she actually believes that she's worth that much.
I'm sure
and the thing is, apparently Tony Khan set some money aside to try to sign a big female free agent. I mean, clearly you got Deanna Purrazzo. If he gets, Mercedes Moné, I mean, those are a couple of nice names to have. But, they brought Saraya in. They brought her into pretty big fanfare. And what have they done with the women's division? They got somebody like Ruby Soho, who's really talented. You got Britt Baker, who's really talented. You got Chris Statlander. You have a lot of really talented women on that roster. You got Hikaru Shida, who's been a multiple-time AEW Women's Champion. You've got Thunder Rosa, who just returned. Oh, by the way, I passed your 5 that you were talking about.
I was counting.
Anyway.
I was going to say Abaddon.
All that being said, they have the pieces there. They have to dedicate the time to those people because they got people who could perform. They've got people that, have made names for themselves outside of AEW. Sky Blue. Yeah. Mike Rainey chiming in saying Sasha and Mercedes can stay away from WWE or redacted. Tim earlier this week, he and I were texting, and he was just like, I really hope that like AEW, it sounds like the money she wants is out of their reach, so they're not trying to sign her. He's like, I think it would be perfect if all she was left with was Impact Wrestling. Not that Impact Wrestling is a bad place to land, but she's not going to get, the millions of dollars that she's hoping for. On the note of TNA, there is a rumor out there that Triple H, he's supposed to have some sort of press conference talking about the year ahead. And one of the rumors is there may be a partnership with Impact Wrestling. What do you think about that?
I think a lot of those rumors had to do with the fact that I want to say they were trying to get on Peacock, or they were trying to get on Fight TV's app, and that there was all this speculation that they were going to go into cahoots with each other because of the fact that there was some kind of connection with WWE and TNA Wrestling now, because TNA has been kind of saying they're going to do the streaming service that they're going to have now. And I want to say it had something to do with, I think it was either Peacock or something to do with UFC.
I think they're on the Fight TV app, or going to the Fight TV app. And Fight TV is actually associated with AEW, but even so, I think it would be interesting to finally, now that Vince is not, the main cog in the wheel, does this end up meaning like, hey, does Endeavor at some point want to purchase Impact Wrestling? They have a tape library of 20 plus years. And if they feel Impact Wrestling is doing well enough on its own, it's like Tony Khan has tried to blur the lines between Ring of Honor and AEW, and I understand why he does it. But I think it's good to have the entities feel at least separate when, you're coming from separate atmospheres, separate fan bases. It's really tough to get them to overlap. They tried that with WCW, and we saw what happened with Booker T and Marcus Alexander Bagwell.
Ugh. Again, they would have been better suited having that match somewhere in the South, like Atlanta, Georgia, than it was in Spokane, Washington.
Yeah. Tim's saying that's correct, Tim. TNA is on the Endeavor app.
That's what it is.
So, if they're on the Endeavor app, there's already at least a bit of a connection there between TNA and at least the parent company of WWE. And having the occasional WWE star show up on Impact, Impact did that a few years ago with AEW.
Honest to goodness, like if that's like the extent of the partnership, is that like AJ Styles will go back to, TNA Wrestling to just make a spot here, like, hey, we'll have him fight Eric Young just for old time's sake, because we haven't seen that in, since Impact or TNA. I could see something like that. And if they send somebody over from Impact to wrestle in the 2 Royal Rumbles, I'm okay with that. That's the kind of partnership, kind of like what they had with Mexico back in 1997, when Mil Mascaras jumped out of the ring to eliminate himself because he refused to lose to anybody.
Yes.
Although Randy Savage did the exact same thing years ago, but we don't talk about that. Regardless, I think a partnership. Regardless, dude. And honestly, I wouldn't be opposed to like a partnership. I think that's where a lot of the rumors were coming from, was because of the fact that they had the thing with Endeavor. But honestly, I want to see Mickie James do something with WWE. I'd like to see her come back to WWE.
She needs to have her last match in WWE, even if it's just a Royal Rumble spot. But I'd rather have it be like a legit match. I wouldn't mind if it was either her versus Trish, or her and Trish in a tag team, and they win the women's tag team championships, and they both retire simultaneously. At this point, Charlotte's got more title reigns than I think the two of them combined. All that being said, in my view, the two greatest female performers in perhaps ever.
They're in my Rushmore. That's as far as I'll go. But they're definitely, if Undertaker and Austin are definitely in my Rushmore, Trish Stratus and Mickie James are definitely in my Rushmore for the women.
All right, going back to AEW for a second, Mike Rainey. Speaking of Jericho, do you personally think Redacted will take any action against him until these allegations get resolved?
No.
I'm going to say they're going to take no action against him until there's something proven in some way, shape, or form. I think what we've learned, at least in the past few years, there's been, I think, at least enough times where there have been allegations against somebody. They turned out to be unfounded and somebody got canceled without having like a full vetting of what actually happened. So firing or punishing somebody over allegations, I think is a bad idea and a slippery slope. But like, if there are NDAs out there, if it's like more than one, it's like, and clearly he learned the NDA thing from Vince. Clearly.
That dastardly Vince.
Tim chiming in saying he believes the AEW is spinning their wheels. I don't know. I think they did okay with the Devil's storyline. The reveal was not completely anticlimactic, but it sucks that Adam Cole legit broke his ankle. And you can't get any closure on that storyline anytime soon. MJF sounded like he'd been dealing with a lot of injuries. They took him off the AEW roster page, which, whether or not he's really done with the AEW, certainly there are rumors out there saying that he's re-signed with the company, but the fact that you have the angle that they did at the end of World's End, you have him lose the title, makes it feel like, oh, okay, maybe he really is gone. And they're playing into that, I think, a little bit. MJF, I believe, has re-signed with AEW. It sounds like he's got some injuries that he just needs to heal. And I think he'll be gone for several months. I think we'll probably see him return at Double or Nothing. If you ask me, I think that's when he'll return. And I think Adam Cole may be close to being healthy at that point. So I think that's what AEW has their eye on. I enjoyed the fact that like the Kingdom was part of this. They became Ring of Honor champions. And, they helped out the Samoan Cookie Machine win the title. I thought that was cool. And as far as spinning their wheels, you know what? They got, I think it was like 143,000 pay-per-view buys at World's End last weekend. That ain't too bad, considering that people have gone away from buying pay-per-views for the most part since 2014. They're doing okay. They're not lighting the world on fire like they did in the first year and a half that they were in existence. They still have enough fans, and they have people who are willing to smack down $50 to watch their pay-per-views.
You know how I feel about AEW and their fans.
I know.
It doesn't really surprise me because a lot of these people who throw down the $50 every time AEW has a pay-per-view are living in their parents' basement and don't know what a razor looks like to shave the neck of their beards. And they're the same.
Are they mouth breathers as well?
Clothesline off the ropes.
And we're going to talk about that soon.
I can't wait. I'm gonna have a Kevin Patrick, fest. That's going to be fun. Clothesline off the ropes. Angelo Dawkins tags in Montez Ford. Jesus Christ. Kevin Patrick sounds like my dog when she's in the back of my car.
Do they have a brown paper bag on standby? So that, like, if he's hyperventilating, It's like they had the dude who came and saved Jerry Lawler. I hope that guy's like right next to Kevin Patrick.
What a paper bag.
Yeah.
Can it be a?
Maybe,
Can it be a,
you know what? When Cody comes out, have Cody come and bring him a paper bag.
I'd rather it be a plastic bag. Yeah, he's gone. Yep, Kevin Patrick. Oh no, Kevin Patrick's gone. Oh no. Well, whatever are we to do? I guess we could just replace him with anything else. Because that could be a top 10 list of potential replacements for Kevin Patrick if somebody put a plastic bag over his head. But the number one thing would be anyone else.
And that reminds me, last week's show went like 3.5 hours. It was not quite like that 5-hour epic that we had that one time. And we did not get to your top 10 presents for Tony Khan. I was disappointed in that. I hope you brought that back this week.
Now, I just want you to know that was heading into the clubhouse, going to be my list for this week. But then, something happened with a certain beaver. So now I have not one but two top 10 lists this week. Because not only do I have last week's top 10 Christmas gifts for Tony Khan, this week I have the top 10 jobs for Bucky Beaver now that he's no longer associated with WWE.
Wow! That's great.
I had to do it because this was a momentous occasion and I can't just let an episode where I get to absolutely eviscerate Bucky Beaver for the entire time we're on this podcast.
This is not as like out of left field or as crazy as like it went from like Vince is going to die in gorilla position to like all of a sudden like, oh, yep, think I'm old enough. I had time to retire. Like, what? Not quite like that. But this was the most pleasant cherry on top of the holiday season we could have expected as wrestling fans.
Jay, I'm telling you right now, I'm making it official. January 5th today. This is the earliest. And when I say this is the earliest, I mean it from the bottom of my heart. This is the earliest. I already have penciled in my mark-out moment of the year. I know
it's
that
going to be hard to beat that. I mean,
300
all those years ago, I'm like on Edge coming out in the Royal Rumble. Like, how much earlier in the year could you get a mark-out moment of the year?
Yep.
And just when I think we can't get it any sooner, Bucky Beaver goes and does this.
And totally redeems himself. Oh.
I can watch a beatdown on WWE TV again. And maybe what they'll do, they'll have the return of them ringing the damn bell instead of like having the camera like shake up and down, left and right, zoom in, zoom out, up, down, left, right, BA, start a contra game. There are so many great things, but that is the one thing, the Dramamine episode of each WWE event no longer possible. That was one of the great things about going to see WWE, specifically live at the Scope at the Hampton Coliseum. I didn't have to see Shaky Cam.
Hartford Civic Center.
Yeah.
Home of the greatest hockey franchise in the history of professional sports. The Hartford Whalers.
The Dunkin' Donuts Center.
Is that what it is
900th Raw.
Oh.
I saw the 900th Raw up at the Fleet Center. Well, it was the Fleet Center. What's it called now?
The TD
Bank of
Bank.
America. TD Bank. Yeah, I saw 900th Raw there, where they teased Bret Hart versus Undertaker for the U.S. title.
I hate the fact that my sister was at the Hartford Civic Center for the night that the Nation of Domination disbanded.
It happens.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that have happened that we were there for. I once saw, I mean, hell, we got shushed. Nothing will ever top that. I don't care that I missed The Undertaker's debut. I don't care that I had to see one of the 3 worst WrestleManias in my life sitting 12 rows from the ring. I don't care that I never got to see The Rock or Stone Cold Steve Austin wrestle live in a wrestling match. I have the luxury, along with Cousin Jay and F and Mark's Hall of Famer El Jefe, we're shushed by Randy Orton. That was my favorite moment that happened at a wrestling show. And this is coming from a guy who got flipped off by Goldust.
And this is, as far as shows that we've seen together, one of the worst, just because it was like right before Halloween and they were about to go on a European tour.
Oh.
And like it was like commercial break after commercial break, and it was a bunch of skits because they had to keep everybody healthy because they were about to get on a plane and go across the pond to go on a tour. So it was just a long, brooding show. But Randy Orton coming out and RKOing the arena made it all worth it. And the fact that like there was that kid next to us that was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And he shushed us all, and it's like
he wasn't shushing that kid, Cousin Jay. You know, you and I both know he was shushing us.
Right. Well, I mean, we were right next to the kids, so.
Yeah, hey,
it was all of us. It was all of us. We're like, even us. We were acting like Kevin Patrick.
I hope he RKO's somebody.
You know, they used to make that noise on rap songs back in the 80s. And I think generally it was the Fat Boys. But I'm just throwing that out there.
I think you're right, though.
You know, there's a couple returns that are rumored for tonight for Smackdown that one I know you'll be super psyched about, and I think the second one you're going to be psyched about too. First one sounds like a returning Sheamus is a thing that's happening tonight.
It's a shameful thing, Lobster Head.
Yeah.
Is he supposed to be the guy that, or unless did they do it and I missed it? Is he supposed to team up with Pete Butch and take on Pretty? Oh, please. Oh, please. As much as I like Pretty Deadly, I need Sheamus to beat the shit out of them tonight. I need that in my life because I'm going to pop. And if he comes out to It's a Shameful Thing, Lobster Head, I'll tell you right now, that would be the only way that something could beat out Bucky Beaver retiring on New Year's Day for mark-out moment of the year is if they give me the Sheamus song back.
Yeah. So there's that. And this other one, I think, is like a dark horse for something that could be really awesome and meaningful. If you want to talk about spinning their wheels, Karrion Kross has been spinning his wheels since he returned to WWE. Allegedly, he's going to be part of a new faction. That faction will include him with the Authors of Pain and a returning Paul Ellering.
Precious Paul.
Precious Paul with Scarlett outside the ring with all the devious things they could come up with. And I think this could be like a launch pad for all three of them to be something. They had tried everything with Karrion Kross. I mean, quite honestly, I think he would have done completely well his first go-round if Vince didn't screw him up by having him undefeated on NXT to lose to Jeff Hardy, who had lost to somebody who was not high on the card on main event earlier that week. Like, and then took away everything from his presentation that made him unique and turned him into Super Shredder Demolition.
Yeah.
And then when he came back, like, I wish he would actually go back to the shaved head. I think the shaved head looks better than having all the hair. But having him with the Authors of Pain and just being this, like, big, brutal team that just smashes everybody, I think it could be something. And I think if they make this thing a faction, it should be the last faction in WWE, because I don't want it to end up like AEW where, you know, they created a new faction with Adam Cole and the Kingdom. So they're back up to 537 factions over in AEW. At WWE right now, it's like, you know, you got Lashley with the Street Profits. You've got the Bloodline. You've got the Spooky Pals.
Spooky Pals.
And you've got LWO. And you've got a couple other things going. I think one more faction would be about the end of it before, okay, too much. But I think this could be a good thing for Karrion Kross and all involved.
I always enjoyed the Authors of Pain. They were a fun tag team to watch, especially down in NXT. And I've always had a very special appreciation for Paul Ellering. He is one of the greats. He's one of the most overlooked managers in wrestling history. He is one of the great managers, and he was just as much a part of LOD or the the Road Warriors, part of their presentation when they were.
Or as Gary Michael Capetta would call them, the Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors. Almost for me as iconic as This Is Sting.
No, nothing's more iconic than This Is Sting.
Nothing is, but for me, that would be the second most iconic announce of Gary Michael Capetta I ever heard.
The Z-Man!
Well, I mean, yeah. But that's only become legendary because of the epic Clash 13.
F. and Mark's Hall of Famer, Clash 13.
Yes. What do you think, though, about Authors of Pain with Karrion Kross?
They got to do something, Jay. I'm sorry. They just have to do something with Karrion Kross. Because if not, if this doesn't work,
let him go.
If you put him with Paul Ellering and you put him with the Authors of Pain, and he's still Vanilla Ice Cream. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not going to disrespect Vanilla Ice Cream. He's basically this piece of paper right here. He's got to go. You've tried twice now. You done fucked up by letting Vince fuck up his whole presentation, make him look like not even Super Shredder. But you just took all of his aura away. And then you bring him back down to NXT, and then you had Adam Cole absolutely destroy him on the microphone. Karrion Kross hasn't been the same wrestler since then. Let alone the fact that Vince made him look like a freaking cosplaying freaking Ninja Turtle. I keep hearing about Karrion Kross. Oh, they got to do something with Karrion Kross. Karrion Kross has to do something. They got to make him better. Okay. Let the kid cook now, or let the dude cook. Because Triple H put a lot of backing behind this. And I remember the last time Triple H put a lot of backing behind a signing when they touted the biggest international signing that Triple H ever made, and it turned out to be Botch City Sin Cara. Not everything that he does comes up smelling like roses.
The Sin Cara signing was his first signing, and that was many years ago. I would say he's built up enough credibility in the last handful of years between what he did with NXT for all those years and what he's done with the main roster in the past, year and a half. For me, clearly he wants Karrion Kross to succeed. Clearly he sees something in Karrion Kross, something Vince never saw. And to me, the implosion of the second opportunity when he came back was when they sent him over to Clash at the Castle to throw water at Drew McIntyre. You have the man fly across the ocean to throw water at the guy. Not throw hands, throw water at him. Are you kidding me? You fly across the ocean because you want to beat the crap out of somebody and get some, right?
Right.
I know it's like this little minor thing, but it at least to me, I'm like that was a shameful thing.
Lobster head. I just, they made a big deal about Karrion Kross because of the fact that it was a situation where him and what the hell was the dude's name from he's with AEW, Lance Archer. Right. Him and Lance Archer were both free agents, and one went to WWE and the other one went to AEW. And it's like Lance Archer really hasn't done shit. In AEW, he's had a better run in New Japan, and he's been part of New Japan. And it's like, and Karrion Kross hasn't done shit. It's like, eventually you have to just come up with a decision. Like, eventually you're just going to have to figure something out. Because he's been part of WWE. Yes, I know he got released, but it's not like he got released and he was like, oh my God, Impact is coming back to sign me, or, Tony Khan is banging down my door looking for cocaine to offer me a contract. It's like he kind of just sat there and did nothing. I mean, I watched Lucha Underground. He must not have been that much of an Impact person for me to remember, because I remember Swerve. I remember Johnny Mundo, Johnny Nitro, Johnny Impact, Johnny TV. I remember the Ricochet. That's where I found out about Prince Puma and knew who Ricochet was, and I've been a fan of Ricochet since. We got to see Alberto Del Rio there. We had Rey Mysterio and Chavo Guerrero and Ezekiel Jackson. I couldn't tell you a damn thing that Karrion Kross did. The only good thing that Karrion Kross brings to the table, I'm sorry to say it, is his wife. And if this doesn't work out with the Authors of Pain and Precious Paul, it's not their fault. He just needs to go. So let's see how it plays out. Just like this whole thing with Sasha Banks potentially going to AEW, when I heard that they offered her a 5-year, $25 million contract. And it almost got my first Brainless of 2024. But I will wait to see what those details of that contract is, because no matter what, whenever she gets there, it's going to be Brainless. And I have a feeling that sometime down the road, in a later episode of this podcast, Karrion Kross is going to come up as a Brainless one week. And it's going to be after having this conversation today.
Okay.
Because they've tried everything they could with him, and they couldn't fix him with the Authors of Pain.
So we've been seeing a lot of videos and other things from performers who are now officially free agents, free of their 90-day compete clauses. And one of them was the former Elias. Elias was officially once again dead and buried, and has returned as Elijah.
That way we could still walk with Elijah.
Yes.
That video, I'm not going to lie, Jay. I watched that video. I know, I'll tell you this much. I didn't watch it once. I watched it a few times. It was fantastic. I don't care where he goes. Give me a third reason to tune into AEW. I'd like to see, because, they've been all these rumors that TNA has money set aside for a huge free agent signing. I know they're not going to. I mean, seriously, nobody expects them to sign somebody like MJF. They couldn't afford Will Ospreay. They couldn't afford Will Ospreay. You know, maybe Elijah, walks his way to TNA. I've seen worse things happen. Hell, I mean, that's part of the way of like how people were to, not succeed the way they hoped in WWE. They go somewhere else. Work for Ron, R-Truth. Yeah. He left WWE, became Ron Killings. I mean, he is Ron Killings. That's besides the point. But he went and had a great run in Impact, and now he's one of Vince McMahon's favorite people. Christian Cage went over there, had a hell of a run. We don't talk about it, but he was there.
He won the championship there.
He won the championship there. He came back and won the ECW championship.
He also won the World Heavyweight Championship.
He did.
And he had one of the greatest feuds of 2011, and he is one of the greatest heels in the business. I don't know about all the times, but right now he is the guy.
He's not the big boss man. F. Mark's Hall of Famer, the big boss man.
Right now he is the guy, and the dastardly thing he did at World's End, and then even carrying it into Wednesday, where he just refused. They're setting this one up with Christian very similar to what they did with Ted DiBiase and Virgil. With the crowd on Wednesday, they were just chanting so loud for Luchasaurus. Luchasaurus. And Christian shushing him and telling him that's not his name, it's Kill Switch. And after he said, I've got one person to thank more than anybody else for me having the title right now, it's me.
Mama.
Luchasaurus, a.k.a. Kill Switch, won a title shot, and Christian talked him into giving him the title shot so he could win the TNT title back from Adam Edge. I love Christian Cage. But, I think a guy like Elias, now Elijah, could do really well in Impact.
Agreed.
Even looking at a guy like Alex Shelley, who TNA called their Wrestler of the Year, he was a guy who more or less was like, I think I'm done with wrestling. And found it again. Found his love for the business, came back to the company that really he made a name with, and became their champion, and has done a great job as the champion. Right now it feels like there are no brands of wrestling that are DOA. It feels like there is at least some support. Otherwise, how would you get these name performers in your place, and have them be able to earn a living? So I think that would be, the best place for Elias to land. It's strange. There was a flurry of activity with NWA where it sounded like they were going to end up on the CW. Sounded like the deal was more or less signed, and then all of a sudden we find out, oh, wait, no, CW actually made a deal with NXT, and then they had that cocaine storyline that Tony Khan wishes he was a part of. Herb Abrams was a part of many years ago, but they do the cocaine storyline, and then CW is now mad and says, yeah, we don't think we want to do business with you. And then NWA is like, oh, no, yeah, we're going to restart doing territories and what have you. They name off a couple of things, and now it feels like a little bit I don't know if they're lying in the weeds right now or maybe they're the one place that's cooled off. But even with them, almost every place in 2023 was Going up. Going up.
Almost every place.
You say whatever you want about AEW. They sold out Wembley Stadium.
Yeah, that's what the Snowman song said. Something, 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 Wembley.
But guess what? If you had nothing going on, something that people weren't interested in, they wouldn't show up. And they did. They showed up. At World's End was, I think, their second or third highest buy rate of the year. If people weren't interested, they wouldn't buy it. Just because you're not completely into it, there's somebody that is.
You got to remember, Jay, there's a lot of spiteful people out there, especially in the wrestling fandom. You even know this. Yeah. And there's a lot of people who were so rejected by what Vince McMahon had done, whether they were pissed off about the way they handled Bret the Hitman Hart in the Montreal Screwjob, or the way that they handled Owen Hart's death, or the way that they handled Steve Austin's injury, or the way that they booked, Chris Kanyon or whatever. Somehow, or CM Punk getting fired on his wedding day. There was a lot of built-up, angry people who just stopped watching wrestling for one reason or another. I am one of them. I stopped watching wrestling for a few years after Steve Austin joined forces with Vince McMahon because fuck you, that's not how it's supposed to go.
Nah.
I'm just saying, you give people an alternative, because that's all AEW is an alternative. And they're going to be like, okay, I like this stuff. Maybe they're followers of what's his face, Meltzer. And they read his stupid freaking newsletter. Or these people who just get off on watching dudes wrestle 9-year-old Chinese girls and freaking blow-up dolls. Of course there's going to be a fandom because there's always going to be these fans that just are into that shit because they like to watch dudes who are built like me fighting for a championship. They like to see, the guy who wrestles with his hands in his pockets. And it's not a slight on Orange Cassidy by any means. I've been defending Orange Cassidy for 3. I dressed up as him for Halloween, for crying out loud. Cousin Jay was there.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a different thing. My issue is that it's becoming more apparently clear that this is a grown man-child who's got daddy's millions and billions of dollars that he can throw away and spend on his real-life action figures and put no booking decisions whatsoever, other than the Devil storyline. Tell me another more compelling storyline in AEW. Don't count Christian Cage. That what he's doing is just GOAT level right now. I'm excluding him too.
He is taking, to an extent, the Vince McMahon level of booking. Make sure that you have a couple of top storylines. People won't remember the other storylines. If you put on a great match, then they may remember that. And you can look specifically at WrestleMania 3. What's the storyline everybody remembers?
Hogan and the Giant. What's the match everybody always talks about? Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat.
And even so, Hogan and Giant had one of the biggest moments of all time. I think you even said the biggest moment of all time, but that was the one storyline everybody cared about. Now, I did like the Ricky Steamboat and Macho Man storyline going in, how Macho Man had squashed the larynx on Ricky Steamboat, and this was Steamboat's chance at redemption. And this is one thing I probably have not spoken out loud to anybody. One thing that always bothered me a little bit about Steamboat's win is that Randy Savage actually got the visual pin at one point, but the referee was knocked out. And I was going, but Steamboat won the match, but he actually got pinned at one point. And I was going, Macho Man should have won that match. Damn.
I honestly, I hate to say it, but WrestleMania 3 might be a bad example. I mean, it could just be from my perspective, because yes, Hogan versus the Giant was the money storyline heading into WrestleMania 3. You had, like you said, with Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat. You had the rivalry with Adrian Adonis and Roddy Piper that was built up for a hair versus career match.
Right.
And not only did we get, Adrian Adonis shaved, that's how we got Brutus Beefcake to turn face and become a barber.
And we got Little Beaver.
We had Hillbilly Jim teaming up with Little Beaver and another midget versus the GOAT King Kong Bundy. Efton Mark's Hall of Famer King Kong Bundy and his two midgets. And
I know Lord Littlebrook was in there. The Haiti Kid, I think, was one of them.
Yes, he was too. Yep.
I'm trying to think of who the other one was. But even Lord Littlebrook turned on King Kong Bundy. They said Bundy went too far. That was also, we got the battle of the Full Nelson in that one, where we got Billy Jack Haynes versus Hercules, where Billy Jack won the match, but Hercules busted him wide open at the end. I watched WrestleMania 3 so many damn times.
I've seen it a time or two, at least. I've had to go back to watch Little Beaver die on television. But my whole thing is, though, Jay, you can't keep doing this on a week-to-week basis. You have 4 shows that you're booking for, because you have Dynamite, you have Ring of Honor, you have Collision, and you have Rampage. You can't be doing this shit where you're either taking your video game and hitting the random button twice, and it's like, oh, look, we have Pentagon Jr. going up against Chuck Taylor. All right, why are they wrestling? I don't know. I just felt like having them wrestle. So there's no rhyme or reason behind it. Or Tony Khan has a giant box of all of his action figures, and he just sticks his hand in there, and let's see what I can have for a triple threat match. Oh, I know. I'll do Wardlow versus Nyla Rose. Oh, wrong division. Let's see if I can pull a dude out this time. Oh, we'll have him with Dino Man and Marco Stunt. Oh my God, why is my Marco Stunt still in here? There's no rhyme or reason behind any of the shit they do. I can't. It's hard to follow, because it's like one week we get Jon Moxley going up against Rey Fenix for no apparent reason, and then we have Trent Beretta fighting Golga. Or we have freaking, there's like what's Miro do? Like, Miro wrestles he's like a groundhog. He shows up on February 2nd and then wrestles a match, and then he's gone.
All right, so he will be showing up in 4 weeks.
He wrestled at the last pay-per-view. Andrade, apparently his last match, because he said, AEW, thanks for everything, I'm out of here. He couldn't wait to get his ass back to WWE. That's why I just find it funny that people like Deonna Purrazzo is going to go to freaking AEW with the worst women's division in all professional wrestling. Because you got a coked out freaking millionaire who's spending daddy's money, and he has no idea what the hell he's doing. Why the hell was he wearing the wig and the glasses on Saturday, Jay? Why was he doing the freaking presser like this? How are you going to have the owner of your company, the guy who does all the booking, the guy who does everything, the face of AEW, I don't care what anybody says, Tony Khan is the face of AEW. And you had the dude wearing a stupid fucking wig and a stupid pair of fucking sunglasses on his face, and they're asking him about if Chris Jericho tried to fuck Kylie Ray. I don't know if I can answer this. Oh, it's because you're wearing the wig and the glasses, stupid? Is it because you haven't had cocaine in about 2 or 3 hours? What the fuck? How am I supposed to take that? That's why I say these things, Jay. I'm not just saying these things to get, reach. I'm not saying these things because I want people to think that I don't like AEW and anything about it, because that is not true. I love the Danhausen. I love Orange Cassidy. Swerve is, I don't know what the fuck they're doing with Swerve, but I could book Swerve better than he can.
Christian.
I love Christian Cage. I love Joe. I love the Acclaimed. The Brainless one loves the Acclaimed, Scissors, and all that shit. I love FTR. I love the House of Black. I love Chris Statlander. I love a lot of things about AEW, but the fact is that the EVPs and the freaking coked out owner take all the fun out of this. This isn't like back in the 90s where Herb Abrams was clearly on coke and he was booking this. Well, come on, tell me, Jay, think about this. They're doing the same. The only difference is if Herb Abrams had Tony Khan's dad's money, UFW would still be going. It's either that or we do a paternity test and somehow get DNA from Herb Abrams so we can find out that Tony Khan is actually his son. Because I am convinced that if I was around, like I knew what UFW was or UHW or whatever the
UWF.
UWF. If I was around and I knew what Herb Abrams was when I was 7 years old, I probably would have been tuning into it. If I was a little bit older, I'd definitely be watching that. Because, I love stupid shit, but AEW, what they're doing is a different kind of stupid. They're really making me question my intelligence, Jay, when I watch this shit.
I mean, you are the brainless one, to be fair.
But it's, to be fair, you're right. But it's like, what was it? Was it Collision, I think it was, last week? Actually, I'm Bucky Beaver this week. I forgot I was Bucky Beaver for a second. But, they did the thing where they brought back, I think it was on Dynamite this week, where one member of Private Party came back from injury. Jay, I've never seen two human beings happier than I saw those two, because I know one of them is, I'm tired of being, part of whatever faction. Like, I was with Matt Hardy for a minute, then I was with Ethan Page, and I was with Stokely Hathaway, and I was part of the Factory for a minute, and I was part of 27 different factions, and I wasn't even part of half of them. Of course, I'd be thrilled to see my tag team partner. Because all you were doing was just losing stupid bullshit matches, and you're part of a makeshift stable that's not going to last longer than 6 weeks. There's no direction at AEW. That's the problem. There's no direction.
I think the Devil storyline had some direction. There were just things out there that were unfortunate. Adam Cole getting hurt was not part of the plan, and I think Adam Cole was the plan all along to be the reveal, and they didn't have anybody in his stead unless they had figured out a way to troll the entire WWE universe and wrestling universe by bringing CM Punk back. That would have been the only other thing.
Tony Khan should have been the devil. Tony Khan coming out as the devil would have been better than him coming out with the stupid wig and the sunglasses on.
Okay.
You can't tell me otherwise. I'm sorry. I thought in my opinion, Adam Cole coming out as the devil, especially in this situation, A, it came out looking rushed. B, you kind of were backed into a corner, and that's exactly what it looks like. And for me, it was anticlimactic. I know you said that
I wouldn't call it rushed. There were a lot of people like, who the hell's the devil? Come on, tell me.
Yeah. Once he got hurt, they should have just scrapped the whole thing. I'm sorry. Because having him come out and it's like, and then he comes out on Wednesday and he's directing Wardlow to go win the World Heavyweight Championship to give it to him.
Right. Mind you, about a line before he said that, he said, Wardlow, it's about time you're with people who actually respect you and are going to treat you right. And it's like, he says that and then undercuts him like the next line.
Boy, he's just talking and telling people what to do. Sure as hell sounds like somebody who's a manager.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about his buddies, the EVPs, who could have managed a target.
Couple of buddies.
A couple of buddies. A couple of Bucky buddies. Ooh, that's their new tag team name. I'm not going to refer to them as the Young Bucks. They're going to be the Bucky buddies.
If Kevin Dunn goes into retirement to become a wrestling manager for the Young Bucks, that could be a new mark-out moment of the year.
No, it wouldn't.
It would be so unexpected, so out of left field. They combine the three worst elements in professional wrestling to create one of the funniest things ever.
That would not be funny by any means.
I think it would be hilarious. It would be almost as good as the troll job WWE played on Monday Night Raw. And that was a great troll job.
What troll job are you speaking of, Cousin Jay?
When they announced that there was a former WWE champion who was going to make an appearance on Monday Night Raw, and they brought out the Jinder. I mean, that immediately got heat from everybody in the building because they were like, there were some reports earlier in the day about The Rock being in the area, and I'm sure people within the arena were like, oh, gonna get The Rock. And they bring out Jinder. And Jinder just going on and on for like 5+ minutes, running down the crowd about how stupid they are. Oh, yep, I said the Pledge of Allegiance in Punjab. I'm going to do it in the Punjabi prison match next. And now I'm going to say something else in Punjab. And then after all that, to finally have The Rock come out, one thing Triple H has done perfect is these surprises. CM Punk doing that little touch of having the copyright come on. Oh, this is the end. And he got you. I know you caught on with Michael Cole, like continuing to talk. But everybody knows that that's the end. Nothing left. All right, turn it off. And then, boom. The whole crowd erupts. Everybody at home erupts. They troll the audience to get them a little bit more pissed off that when, you got the returning hero coming, I mean, the roof just blew off that place. And Jinder was the perfect foil because at this point, like, he is not at the top of the card. Having him in the ring with The Rock can only do nothing but good things for him. And he is a former champion, and having him get beat up by The Rock is not a bad thing. And then Rock saying what he said at the end, setting up a possible, I'm not going to say it's definite WrestleMania because I know on Young Rock, they teased like, oh, that's the type of match that you would have at WrestleMania. I feel like The Rock at this point wouldn't care how much Saudi Arabia was paying him. He already is close to a billionaire. Whatever extra blood money they would try to send his way, Rock doesn't need it. There's rumors that they might try to bring him to the land down under.
Honest to goodness, weren't they just talking about how the ticket sales haven't been as good as they were hoping in Australia for the Elimination Chamber?
So if that's the thing, if they want to bring The Rock down there, I would say if they do that, I'm going to say that's not the only wrestling match we get from The Rock this year. Like, he's coming back for WrestleMania. WrestleMania is the show of shows.
Let him have his match with Roman Reigns, puts over the Tribal Chief in the Elimination Chamber, comes out for WrestleMania, teams up with John Cena against Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. But I swear to God, if Grayson Waller and Cena win that match, I'm going to be so pissed.
Grayson Waller and Cena? You mean Grayson Waller and
that's what I meant. Theory.
Austin Theory?
I can't even get the words out of my mouth just because it makes me think about what happened at last year's WrestleMania.
He's gonna puke.
That was the worst match I've ever seen in WrestleMania. The worst. And I watched Giant Gonzalez and freaking Undertaker at WrestleMania 9.
Hey, that match isn't as bad as people make it out to be. I mean, you did watch
Just as the
Bob Backlund
Undertaker
versus Bret Hart and I Quit match.
Man, I speak so glowingly and how much I loved Roddy Piper as a character. That's my dad's favorite wrestler of all time. I will never, ever, ever forgive Roddy Piper for ruining what could have been the best match at WrestleMania 11. Because you have Bob Backlund, who is a technical. I mean, he's looked like a technical wrestler,
Yes.
and you have Bret Hart, who is the excellence of execution. Two of the best in-ring technicians. And you had to put Roddy Piper in there to just go in there and shout, Bob, you quit, Bob. It's like, man, I'm like, this sucks. That was like 11 when I said, I was like, man, this sucks. That's almost as bad as the kid in the suit going, he didn't even hit the chair, Dad.
So,
no shit.
But in your heart of hearts, when do we see Roman Reigns versus The Rock?
Elimination Chamber.
Okay. I'm going to say WrestleMania.
I think they've done too. They can't. Jay, they can't keep dragging out. Think about this. Cody Rhodes came back to WWE to be a WrestleMania main eventer and was to be given the World Heavyweight or Universal WWE Championship. And he went from main eventing night 2 of WrestleMania to wrestling on the pre-show, basically. Because he is now taking a back seat to not only CM Punk, but he's now taking a back seat to The Rock. Because somebody's going to have to eat shit in this situation, and I don't see it being CM Punk. Because it would look really bad if, like, the whole point of bringing him back was to wrestle at WrestleMania, just to have him lose his spot in the main event of WrestleMania to The Rock again.
If you want to see the bridge that was rebuilt by Tony Khan in Jungle Jerk-Off explode again.
Jay, like we've said before, they want to do Roman Reigns versus The Rock at WrestleMania. The title should not be on the line because that's the type of match of that magnitude that it doesn't need the championship to be as big of a match as it is because it's Roman Reigns versus The Rock.
Guess what? He could lose the title to Randy Orton at Royal Rumble, and I don't think there'd be too many people upset.
No. Because I've said it before. I don't know how many times I have to say it. Randy Orton is really the only legitimate threat versus anybody in WWE because it's Randy fucking Orton. We're talking about the 3 most dangerous letters in the history of professional wrestling, the RKO. And he's jacked. I'm telling you, if they want to do it, yes. They want to have Rock versus Roman at WrestleMania, fine. Do it at WrestleMania. But the title shouldn't be on the line. You owe it to Cody Rhodes for what he has done since he has returned to WWE almost 2 years ago. Him being the face of the WWE, the guy who's giving away tickets to fans, the guy who's signing all the autographs, the guy who's taking all the pictures. Cody Rhodes is so active. I follow him on Twitter X. He is very active all over social media, talking to fans, talking to everybody. That guy is the face of WWE. You can't tell me otherwise. And it would be...
There is a way that they could do the match between the two of them and not take the title off Roman. The Rock could say, I don't want the title. I want the title of Tribal Chief. I want the title of head of the table. This isn't about the title. This is about family. This is about bragging rights. That's one way they could do it without putting the title on the line. And
yeah. And honestly, it would be, in the words of the late, great Gorilla Monsoon, it would be a miscarriage of justice if Cody Rhodes got bumped from the main event of WrestleMania for The Rock.
So Cody just re-signed with the company for, it sounds like at least 3 more years. So if it doesn't happen this year, they're in this together for the long haul. Sometimes having the long chase and having that really climactic ending, it takes time. And I know that they've already taken their time. And it's not like Cody's gone to the, the shitter. I mean, he feuded against Brock Lesnar and came out on top. He's maintained his level there. We have an awful lot of loudness going on as we're entering WrestleMania season because we have all these returning people, whether it's Randy Orton, CM Punk, now The Rock. You got other guys that aren't quite on that level at this moment, like returning Sheamus. You got Drew McIntyre, who's like out there. Like I said a few weeks ago, the main event picture in WWE is as bright as it's been in forever. And unlike the Attitude Era, where everybody had the title for a cup of coffee and then handed it off, this is the era of, we stick with a champion, but we have a lot of people who are ready and hungry to be competitive for that thing. I'm okay with how all that's going. And Cody will finish his story at one point. It just may not be this year.
I think the problem with that is that you have so many, because wrestling fans are the most fickle fans. Fickle! You're all fickle. They're going to get bored waiting for Cody to finish the story, just like they're already bored with Roman Reigns continuing on as Universal Champion. And the longer they drag that out, and I understand they're still going to tune in, I haven't given two shits about Roman Reigns since he won the title back at WrestleMania 39, or retained the title at WrestleMania 39. I'm starting to lose interest in that. I'm not even that tuned in. And you know who you forgot? Out of all that, yes, you had all these returns, and you have all these other main event caliber guys, and it's very deep. You forgot one very important name.
R-Truth.
That's another name, actually. You were talking about the returns, and I was like, damn, R-Truth is in there too. And he's getting a lot of consideration for Wrestler of the Year from me. Early on.
I mean, we're 5 days in, so.
We have 361 days left, so we're fine. Anything's possible. But you forgot one main eventer, a guy who has overcome so much adversity after being straddled with one of the worst gimmicks that has happened since they made Barry Darsow the Repo Man. L.A. Knight. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if we ain't talking about LA Knight, then we ain't talking.
Yeah.
But this is and that's part of the problem that I see with them kind of waiting and dragging out the Cody chasing for the title to finish the story, because you know how wrestling is. If you wait too long to pull the trigger on something, it's going to come back and blow up in your face. I always think back. Time. Right, but it seems like it happens because I remember Royal Rumble 2014 when Bautista came out, and he's going to win the thing. You didn't have Daniel Bryan in there. People were pissed that Daniel Bryan wasn't in that Royal Rumble. You know who was stealing the show in that Royal Rumble? Roman Reigns, because Roman Reigns, as a member of the Shield, was throwing anybody and everybody out of the ring. I could only have wished that Duke Josie was in there so he could have thrown his trash ass out. They could have literally called an audible and had Roman Reigns win that Royal Rumble, and people would have been thrilled. They took that and said, maybe we should do something with that. Oh, I know. We'll just jam him down everybody's throat like we did with John Cena and like we do with Charlotte Flair now. And they pulled the trigger too late on Roman Reigns, and people got tired and sick of him. And it took until him turning heel in 2020 and telling people to acknowledge him for him to finally get over that 5 years later. You waited too long with Sami Zayn. Yes, he had a great moment at WrestleMania this year, but you kind of dropped the ball with that because he could have done bigger and better things with that. The same thing with R-Truth. I've talked about this at nauseum. The only thing I can't stand about CM Punk is that him and his contract expiring in 2011 cost us the summer of R-Truth. They waited too long, or they pulled the plug on something way too quickly. And that's the problem with fickle wrestling fans. I think if this chase continues on for another year, they're going to lose a lot of people being interested in what they do with Cody Rhodes.
I don't agree with that, and that's just because I think Cody is too good of a performer, and there's too much where people are invested in him. And not only is he doing the stuff on TV, he's doing the things, like you said, where he bought WrestleMania tickets for a Cody Rhodes fan club at a high school to go to WrestleMania. He bought tickets for a kid who loves Cody Rhodes for them to go to a show in Detroit for a family that didn't have enough money. These are the type of things that make people long-term invested in you. The other big, ginormous thing that is different now from all those other times is Vince McMahon ain't there. Triple H seems to have a pretty good idea of where he's going, and he has a pretty damn good track record of actually following through. And I think he has a better pulse on what the wrestling crowd wants, because guess what? They're selling out everywhere. I don't see it getting worse in the next year. I see it continuing because they have so many top-end players. There are so many people Cody could still go against. Like, he brought, main event Jey Uso back. Is there a point that, and Jey Uso's another one that you could kind of put up there in legit, main event, the crowd is completely behind it. Is that going to eventually implode and they have at each other? There are a lot of people that you could have Cody go against. I don't think he's had a feud against Drew McIntyre at this point. He might have had a match or two or a tag team match or two. There are people out there for him to feud with that are not a huge step down that could keep this thing going, and that when if he gets cheated out of something this year, people are going to be even more pissed and hopefully even more hungry because he's built a lot of goodwill. And that's my reason why it's okay if they wait another year. I would prefer if they didn't. I think they still have a bug up their butt about beating out Hulk Hogan's longest title reign with Roman, if I'm being honest. And that means that he holds the title till September. So if they have a Clash at the Castle and it's right after that date passes, whether or not it's Drew McIntyre or somebody else beating Roman, I don't know. But there's enough juice out there to keep Cody going. I would prefer it happen this year, even if it happened at SummerSlam.
Hold on. That's a thought I didn't even think of. Do we know exactly what the date is when Roman surpasses Hulk Hogan?
It's sometime in September, and that's about all I remember off the top of my brain.
Because if memory serves me correctly, because if I was predicting correctly, and I know that there's Farragus Peck really screwed the pooch on it. But isn't it going to be the 47th anniversary this year of when Dusty Rhodes won the WWF World Championship from Superstar Billy Graham, even though he won in a count out, so he technically didn't win the title?
Sounds right.
I'll tell you what, I'd be more on board and less, vocal in the negative side on this and be okay, I could see this happening if we found out that Roman Reigns will pass Hulk Hogan before the anniversary date, so that when they do it, let's say they do it at Madison Square Garden at a random show in September on that anniversary. You can have a house show in a Thursday. So I remember a couple of years ago it was supposed to be a Monday. So this year it's got to be a Thursday. Or push it to SmackDown the next day on Friday.
Right.
And have them do it there. Or hey, at that point, SmackDown could have their new schedule. They could be on a different day. And that's how you do it.
I believe the new SmackDown contract will be October. I believe. I could be wrong. And there are a lot of things that have to change by that point. Cody would have to become a SmackDown superstar.
Well, I mean, honestly, if they're talking about having him do Roman versus him at WrestleMania this year, he's got to do it again.
Right.
Because if they're going to do CM Punk versus Seth Rollins on night one, they're both Raw stars.
Right.
So, I mean, this isn't like when they did Asuka's fighting for one title on one show and Rhea Ripley's fighting for the other title on the other show. And it's okay. That was, yeah. I mean, it worked itself out in the end, but I thought it was still silly how they did that.
It was.
Okay. I'm actually, I'm less upset about this. I'm actually a little bit more on board with Roman fighting The Rock for the title at WrestleMania this year. Just give me something good with Cody Rhodes then. Right. And we forgot another name. What about Gunther?
Again, so many names that are up there that could be at the top of the card. WrestleMania is going to be, as far as star quality, is going to be the most stacked it's been in years. There's not going to be many matches where you're like, oh no, time to go to the bathroom.
I'm sure they're going to give Nia Jax a match, so they're going to have to fit that in at some point to have me take a shit. But if the card is good enough and it's like, okay, oh, don't worry, Jay, they have like 47,000 video packages they have to show. You'll have plenty of time to take a leak and, grill something on the grill and stuff like that.
On the Hulk Hogan grill, brother.
And talk about a difference in like, two different wrestlers. I'm so sick and tired of Roman Reigns as the WWE Undisputed Universal Champion, and he needs to drop the title. I never want to see Gunther drop the Intercontinental belt. There will never be another wrestler who has done more for that championship than Gunther has done with the Intercontinental title, and it's not a slight on anybody else in the history of wrestling. That guy is guy's freaking. That's your guy. I've been saying that's your guy for the next decade. Cody Rhodes versus Gunther could have the potential to main event multiple WrestleManias like The Rock and Stone Cold did.
Because Roman and Brock Lesnar.
And Roman and Brock Lesnar. Because that's your evil, foreign bad guy that could be the ultimate heel. And then you have Homelander as the ultimate face.
And the thing is, with a guy like Gunther, quite honestly, I don't ever want to see him as a face.
No.
It would ruin him. He would still put on great matches, but I think it would just ruin him.
This isn't like Sheamus, who's cool as a face and a heel.
Right.
Oh, even though he's a little corny as a face, and Sheamus could do anything. Who am I kidding? It's the GOAT. Yeah. It's the GOAT. Can't wait. Next to the other GOAT, Steve Austin. What? Since we were just talking about Hulk Hogan, how about this? We were talking about how yesterday was the 25-year anniversary of when Mick Foley won the WWE Championship and the turning point in the Monday Night Wars between WCW and WWE. But later this month, I think it's the 21st, if I'm not mistaken, is the day 40 years ago that Hulkamania was born. Because on one fateful night at Madison Square Garden, Hulk Hogan, Terry Bollea, the man who wrestled 400 days in a single year, the man who was supposed to be the official spokesperson for the Hulk Hogan Grill, but was at school picking up his kids and missed the call, the same man who was supposed to be the lead bassist for Metallica.
Yes.
Tried to play minor league baseball and was scouted by the Yankees and the Reds. Am I forgetting anything? And most importantly, the only man to ever body slam Andre the Giant when he did it at WrestleMania 3. Andre the Giant weighed 600 pounds.
I have a quick question. Who in Hogan's mind died first? Andre or Little Beaver?
Oh, Andre. because he literally killed Andre. And we already know that he said Andre was dead and John Belushi was alive.
Elvis was a fan.
Elvis was a fan. I could go on and on. But anyway, WWE announced this week that they are going to be celebrating January as Hulk Hogan Hulkamania month. What are your thoughts on WWE celebrating Hulk Hogan and the birth of Hulkamania this month?
What they're really celebrating is the birth of the company being a national company. Without Hulk Hogan, they would not be what they are today. It took Vince and Hulk Hogan and Cyndi Lauper and Mr. T and a whole bunch of other people, but it was Hulk Hogan who was
the mainstay.
And I think MJF put it perfectly earlier this year. He's like he's a racist and he's a piece of crap, but he meant a lot to the professional wrestling industry, and I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today without him. So that's kind of been the line that WWE has been skating since they reinstated him, bringing him back on occasion. They have not said that they will bring him back for Raw or Smackdown. They just said that they're going to celebrate, but there's an opportunity for him to show up. I'm going to guess he will show up. You know, despite the fact that everything that went on with his son recently and what have you, I think he will show up. And I hope he does a couple of more interviews ahead of time so we can find out more about his fabled past. That number one album he had after he visited the boy who had a strange smell to him went number one for weeks. I mean, that was a new one. Like, how long has he kept that one in the vault? Has he been writing these things down? Are we going to find out, like, you know, Andy Kaufman was known for, like, acting out things as if they were, like, real life, but they were really just jokes? Are we going to find out that Hulk Hogan is the greatest storyteller of all time? Like, he'll sit there and there's going to be a video, like, at his funeral where he finally cops to saying, oh, yeah, I just said that stuff too.
No. I'm convinced he believes all the shit that comes out of his mouth. You can't. I'm sorry. If I can understand, like, the rib being like, I wrestled 400 days in a year, or I body slammed and killed a giant and tore 18 ligaments in my back. But come on. He told The Undertaker that he fucked up his neck, and The Undertaker believed it for 2 years. Till he randomly saw it on TV. Wait a minute. His head didn't even hit the freaking mat.
His neck didn't even hit the mat, Dad.
His neck didn't even hit the mat, Dad. I mean, come on. He came out and said, oh, yeah, Metallica wanted me to be their lead bassist. Lars Ulrich came out and said no.
I think he even said, I've never even met the dude.
Never even met Hulk Hogan.
Hulk Hogan.
I'm just waiting.
Oh.
I'm just waiting. Because at some point in either 2024 and 2025, Hulk Hogan's going to come out with I'm calling my shot. This is my Babe Ruth shot. Because all these lies that Hulk Hogan has told over the years, this one makes the most sense if he were to come up with this for a lie. He's going to say that Motorhead was supposed to sing his entrance song, but he decided to let them sing it for Triple H because he felt like it would be more suitable for Triple H to have Motorhead than him.
Yes.
I could probably come up with a lot more. I'm pretty sure I've already done a list for that.
My favorite one out there was the one about him not wanting to ruin the Undertaker's undefeated streak at WrestleMania 3. Hold off till WrestleMania 30. It'll make it more important. You want to talk about finishing the story there? It made it more important. Made it more important by having Brock win.
Jay, I'm more impressed with the fact that he was able to party with John Belushi weekend at Bernie's Star after WrestleMania 2.
Yes, he absolutely did.
I want him to no, Jay, you have no idea. There's not a wrestler in the history of professional wrestling I want to see come out at any point and in the foreseeable future this month, and I want to see Hulk Hogan. Just because yes, little brainless one, the little Hulkamaniac used to take his vitamins and say his prayers. Yes, would love to see Hulk Hogan. But also, 35 plus year fan of professional wrestling, the brainless one would love to see Hulk Hogan because it's the only time that when there's a professional wrestler on the TV, I feel less dumb or less brainless. Because Hulk Hogan's going to come out to the fanfare and he's going to do his posing and he's going to let me tell you something, brother. I love being here at the Coca-Cola arena. It's Pepsi, you dumb fuck. Because he's going to do something stupid. Not even do so. He's going to say something stupid. He's going to call it either the wrong name or he's going to be like, "Oh, we're at the MetLife Center, brother." Yes, the MetLife Center, brother. Back in the days of the MetLife, Center when Joe Namath was leading the New York Giants in the Super Bowl instead of the Jets, right? Hulk Hogan. You were going to say that, the only reason that the butt fumble happened was because you told everybody it was going to happen, Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan on my TV at any point in any given day is the best TV that I'm going to get in professional wrestling because it's now to the point where you never know what he's going to say.
And you just hope he's in the ring with somebody like The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin to point it out to him.
Or Brock Lesnar.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how we transition, but like another person that there was a video that came out this week. It raised a couple eyebrows here and there. AJ Lee in a wrestling ring. Now, to be fair, she was helping her husband train for his in-ring return. But it's got a lot of people talking. She posted it. So clearly, taking a page out of her husband's book of like keeping yourself in folks' mind. So I'm wondering if maybe we get a Royal Rumble appearance from AJ Lee. I don't think she will ever come back to wrestling, even for a short run. It sounds like wrestling really messed up her body. She's not a big woman, and taking all those bumps, like I heard her neck and her back are pretty messed up, but I think she could do something like the Royal Rumble. She could probably do like a tag match. Like if they did a mixed tag at WrestleMania with CM Punk and it wouldn't be this year, it would be like next year. I could see something like that going on, but do you think we see AJ Lee return?
Yes. I also think that she might actually have a run in WWE because if you're talking about doing WrestleMania next year, if they wanted to do like CM Punk and her versus like Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins, you could Seth Franklin Rollins, and yes, I mean that could be a match if you wanted to bump them from the main event of WrestleMania. You can have that mixed tag match and it'd be a lot of fun.
Right.
But all I'm going to say is this: if we get AJ Lee to return to WWE after all these years, I am going to give Jungle Jerk Off my brainless moment of the year for a second consecutive year because his real glass, cry me a river, that little statement is going to bring CM Punk and AJ Lee back to WWE.
Yeah.
Stick that in your fucking nose, Tony Khan.
And a thing occurred to me when Hogan back in the day talked about taking your vitamins, you realize he was referring to cocaine and he was probably snickering in his head. They think I'm talking about vitamins.
Jay, I died a little the day I found out that Hulk Hogan was on cocaine while he was cutting those promos because 7-year-old brainless one didn't realize that Hulk Hogan was he didn't even know what coked out was, even though I was living in Hartford. But just going back and watching all the old promos and seeing Hulk Hogan with his eyes glazed over and looking like he just saw like 27 ghosts, and then tells everybody he's the original Ghostbuster. I was going to be in the Ghostbusters, brother, but Dan Aykroyd didn't like the fact that I hung out with John Belushi after WrestleMania 2, brother.
I brought Simon Cowell over to the United States, brother.
Jay, it's just to a point
After
now
I
where
invented SummerSlam in Wembley.
It's just a point now where everything that comes up, you could come up with any scenario that Hulk Hogan would say, and it would sound like something he would say as a lie.
If he said water is wet, I would have some high doubts.
That it was dry?
If he said that Roman Reigns' hair was wet, I might start doubting that his hair is wet.
No, because it's clear as day that 8 years in a row, the same gentleman has won the same award more than anybody else. He's had a collection. He's got a whole mess of Marquee Awards.
Yeah.
He messaged me. He said, "What am I supposed to do with these things?" And I'm like, "I don't know. What do you want me to tell you? I'm brainless."
And yeah, those golden combs we keep on sending to him, just good. One thing I did enjoy, like it was mentioned kind of a little bit during the podcast last week where somebody, I think it was Mike Rainey, said, "Hey, by the way, it sounds like Shotzi got married." One of my favorite things was watching that Shotzi actually wrestled a match in her wedding gown. As much as I don't think super highly of her right now as an in-ring performer, that's great.
Swing a chair. As long as I never have to see her swing a chair again, that's all I care about. Because that is literally the worst.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool that she did that, where her and her now husband got married in Vegas and then drove to California, and she was able to show up in her dress and have a match and everything. I thought that was really cool. Almost got my good for this week.
I mean, there were a lot of things to go for that could have been the good this week. But I mean, with the news that we got at the beginning of the week, I mean, possible mark-out moment of the year.
Oh, it's not possible.
It's just... I mean, Shotzi could have gotten the good. Another thing that really could have gotten my good this week was Joaquin Wilde.
Oh, that was so awesome.
Flying like Buzz Lightyear off the ropes. And he jumped 20 feet. That's greater than when Rob Van Dam or Shane McMahon went coast to coast. What he did. It was so awesome looking.
Yeah, it was. That was a fun match, too.
Yeah. And as much as, like, I know James E. Cornette really hates when they gather a whole bunch of people together to catch the person. So I can watch something like that happen. I'll accept it.
I think if it happens every so often, yes, I can understand. You know, it's not as big of a deal. But like when it happens every week on AEW, I think it's just because he hates AEW and he just doesn't want to admit it.
Oh, he admits it.
Yeah, well. By the way, I heard his little thing on Bucky Beaver. I was waiting all week for that. I've never wanted to hear an episode of the podcast that wasn't ours more than I wanted to hear him do his 2 cents about Bucky Beaver getting retired.
I didn't hear it. What did he say?
He basically said, like, he was just the one thing I took away from it was he said, I have never met a more miserable prick in my entire life than I did with him. And he said that the time was coming because you knew it was going to happen. Once Vince McMahon was taken out of power, you could see that this was going to be the ultimate end for Kevin Dunn. And he goes, and it couldn't have happened to a worse person because nobody in the history of being a producer of any kind of sports or any kind of anything has made as much or has lasted as long as Bucky Beaver did. And it's all because of the fact that he just sat there and just fed the stupid ideas that Vince liked, that Vince listened to. He was basically a guy who lasted longer than freaking Vince Russo with Vince Russo ideas. And I'm almost positive that the reason why Samantha Irvin doesn't do the Chelsea Green thing anymore is because of Bucky Beaver. I don't want to be surprised if they're like, yeah, we're gonna have her go do it. And, yeah, I don't want to do it. And he probably threw a freaking shit fit and was like, I'm just gonna go build a dam. Well, good, go fucking build a dam, damn it. But like he basically, that's what he said. He went off on him. He said this is a good day for WWE because now they can get the right person in place. Somebody with a more of a he's convinced that it's going to be somebody with a more combat sports background. Maybe somebody who had ties to UFC or Bellator, or maybe somebody who did anybody from AEW leave that was actually worth a shit. I know they had a whole bunch of.
There was somebody recently who was like the executive vice president of television production, actually.
And there were a lot of people were pissed when that guy lost his job.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe they could bring him in. But
they could just hire from within somebody who is underdone, who has different ideas.
Do you really want somebody who worked under Kevin Dunn producing WWE television? Because all we know is we could get one of his disciples who actually thinks that the shaky camera is a good thing.
I would say that anybody new who comes in, even if there's somebody who's been in the company, I think will realize they have to mold to Triple H's ideas. I'm pretty sure Triple H does not like shaky cam.
I hope not.
So hopefully whatever person comes in, I'll just say that I've worked in departments where I worked under somebody for a long time, and if I were elevated, I would not have done things the way that person did them. And when I did, have my opportunity to elevate to places, the things that the person did before that was above me that I didn't like, I literally did the opposite. So I would like to think whoever it is, even if they were like kind of like a yes man or a yes woman under Kevin Dunn because they had to keep their job, were secretly on the down low, like going, I can't wait until this freaking dude retires and I get my chance and actually like. And the thing is, there were a lot of good aspects of what Kevin Dunn did. Think of the fact that in NFL now, we've got these like crazy camera angles that go on. That came about from the XFL. Oh, by the way, it came about because Kevin Dunn. Kevin Dunn had some good ideas, but the stupid ones were so dumb that it like shattered everything else that he did that was good. He was the one who came up with the idea of having like the ring apron with like an LED screen. I think they look cool as hell. I think it adds a little bit to the presentation. He was the one who had them change like the turnbuckles. They added something to the presentation, but he did so much other stuff that was so stupid.
Yep.
That it wrecked it for me.
Honestly, and that's one thing I did want to mention that Cornette had mentioned on his show, was that he said, if you want to learn how to do video production from somebody, you learn from Kevin Dunn. If you want to learn about what wrestling is and what it needs to be in that part of the presentation, don't ask Kevin Dunn. So I will say that he did compliment him and say he is an actual really good producer of whatever.
Video
video production. Yeah. He actually complimented on him on that, and he just said he's a dumb fuck when it comes to professional wrestling. I think that's probably the nicest thing anybody's ever said about Kevin Dunn.
Right.
Because he just looks like somebody I just want to take my knee and drive it right into his fucking face. Bucky Beaver looking fuck.
Yeah.
God, I hate that man.
All right, on a brighter note, it was announced this week, official, the XFL and the USFL are merging. They will continue it to be spring football. They're taking 4 teams from each league, and similar to what they did with the AFL and the NFL back in the day and made it the AFC and the NFC. Mm-hmm. That's what they're doing here. 4 teams from each league, so it's going to be 8 teams total, and they start, I believe it's going to be like March 29th. So, you know, the XFL, I think, lost like $60 million last year. I know The Rock, with 1, how much money he has, and 2, knew that it was going to be a multi-year building for this thing. Now having a partner that could, you know, if they take some losses, eat some of the losses, but hopefully build for something that, you know, not going to be the NFL probably ever. Probably not going to be close to the NFL. But you could be an alternative like TNA has been, like AEW's been, make money, give people an opportunity, because there are people that were in the original XFL that ended up having another, you know, they ended up having another run in the NFL.
Tommy Maddox.
It was Tommy Maddox. Ended up playing, I think, for like another 4 or 5 years.
Don't forget about
like that, an opportunity.
And think about the fact that He Hate Me had an actual decent NFL run.
Yeah.
Rod Smart. I used to pick him up in Madden, and he used to be my everyday running back, and I would change his name to He Hate Me.
Yes.
Nuts down. He hate me.
So, I mean, big news on many ends for The Rock this week.
Yep.
And big news with Kevin Dunn. Out of breath thinking about Kevin Patrick announcing right now. It's Karrion Kross.
Authors of Pain are making their way to the ring. And they're accompanied by Paul Ellering. Clothesline off the ropes. Elbow drop off the top rope.
Arm drag.
Arm bar.
Moss covered family Gradunzel. Oh,
I can't with Kevin Patrick. He needs to go. And the fact that he's going to be the voice of Smackdown is the most disrespectful thing I've ever experienced in my 35 plus years of being a WWE fan. That guy is. I miss Mike Adamle. I miss Nosebleed. Oh, what the hell was his name? Oh, I miss Joey Styles. I mean, I do miss Joey Styles. Am I kidding? Oh, who was the guy? And I think he went to like Impact or TNA. Oh, Josh Matthews. I miss Josh Matthews.
Yeah, Josh Matthews.
Hell, I miss whatever the hell the commentary team was when they had the Booker T versus Buff Bagwell match.
That was Arn Anderson and I think Dean Malenko. Definitely Arn Anderson, but
I want to say it was one of the brothers of the Road Dogg.
Could have been.
That's if I remember. I don't remember really. I just remember Buff Bagwell had one match, and the fact that Kazarni had more matches in WWE than Buff Bagwell says all you need to know about Buff Bagwell.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's about all I got on my notes.
That's all I have in my notes.
I know you have some top 10 lists for us.
Yes, I think I will breeze through this one really quickly because this is what Tony Khan would want. He would want me to breeze through the top 10 gifts for him from Christmas this year. Number 10, 5-star ratings from Dave Meltzer.
That's a good one.
Number 9, he wants a hug from his dad, Shad Khan. Number 8, he got a Christmas card from the Hardy Boys. You know, the family Christmas card, because you know how much, Matt Hardy loves him, and
Yes.
he goes to bat for him. Number 7, a better booking for the women's division. That doesn't even seem right. All right, number 6. What's a better gift than getting hugged from your dad? How about a hug from the closest wrestler? Or, I'm sorry, a hug from insert wrestler name. This was over a week ago, so I'm sorry.
The Young Bucks.
Number 5, he got therapy.
That's a good one.
Number 4, he got a blowjob from Chris Jericho. Chris, smack his dick out of your mouth before you start talking. I still love Chris Jericho. I don't care. Unless something comes with this that makes him look like a total piece of shit, I still love Chris Jericho. Number 3, and it was in a pretty big box, another former WWE superstar. Number 2, more cocaine.
If cocaine's number 2, I can only imagine what number 1 is.
I could give you 20 guesses, and I don't think you would get it.
I mean, I'd put Kenny in the box, but...
And since that was 2 through 10...
It's the number 1...
I wish. I wish I thought of that. Fuck. And the number 1 gift that Tony Khan got for Christmas this year, the balls to fire Jungle Boy and the Young Bucks. Just kidding. He never got balls.
Yeah?
The only ball that he ever got for Christmas was balls of cocaine.
Was an 8-ball?
An 8-ball, yes. Now that brings us to our next list. The top 10 jobs for Bucky Beaver now that he is no longer a part of WWE. Number 10, well, Vince isn't doing anything right now, so he could continue being Vince's suppository.
True.
Number 9, he could be a damn engineer. Number 8, he can go to AEW with all the other trash in professional wrestling.
Him and Drosy together.
Yes. Number 7, he could be the new mascot for the Oregon State Beavers.
That's a great call.
Number 6, they could have a show picked up on either Netflix or Hulu starring him and Vince McMahon as the Dastardly Vince and Bucky Beaver. Number 5, and I'm really glad that I found this one. Number 5, he could just go off and retire at Beaver Dam Park. Do you want to take a guess where Beaver Dam Park is located?
Oregon?
Right up the road in Gloucester, Virginia.
Ooh.
So if he could retire, I hope he retires and goes there so I can go and freaking stomp that little turd. No, I seriously, I want to fight Kevin Dunn and knock all his teeth out and make him rich.
He already is.
Yeah, I know. Make him even more rich. Number 4, he could be the new mascot for Bucky's gas station. They have these things called Bucky Nuggets. I don't know what the hell they are, but I've seen the gas station a million times. But
yep.
Number 3, do you remember back in the day that Planters had the commercial with the beaver that they asked if he liked nuts?
Yes.
They could reprise that role and have him play the beaver in that commercial.
Oh, all right.
Although, when he does do the cutout, it won't be of the Planters peanut. It will be a cutaway to a fan screaming. Number 2, this is the most obvious one. Number 2, he can go get a job at the Hoover Dam.
Yes.
I'm gonna break you for number 1. That was my goal. That is always my goal every single time I do these things with the top 10 list. I do it to entertain the fans. I enjoy doing them, but most importantly, I love making you break. If that was 2 through 10, Cousin Jay, would you happen to take a guess of what number 1 is? And like I said with the Tony Khan Christmas list, I'll give you 20 guesses. I don't think you'll get it, but I'll still make you laugh.
Just go with it. Just go with it. I was going to go with Hoover Dam.
The number one thing that Bucky Beaver can do now that he is no longer associated with WWE, I take a line from the late great Walter Matthau from the movie Grumpier Old Men.
Yes.
Kevin Dunn, do the world a favor. Take your bottom lip, lift it over your head, and swallow.
I love those movies.
That franchise, the Grumpy Old Men and the Grumpier Old Men, are the two most underrated movies I have ever seen. Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau are just absolutely cinema masterminds, and they work and they mesh so well together.
And Burgess Meredith.
Yes.
And Margaret.
Yes.
All of them. Kevin Pollak.
Looks like Chuck's bringing the log to the beaver.
Yep.
Oh, he was. I loved him. He was the best character in that movie. But that was a great cast. Great. Everything about it was excellent.
Yes.
But that is my top 10 list. So I guess that means it's time for our good,
our bad,
and this guy. I mean, the Brainless.
And Bucky.
All right, Cousin Jay, don't even have to ask.
No, you don't.
Is it it's unanimous, right?
Yes, obviously. Kevin Dunn being done with WWE is the good. As much as I wanted to put Joaquin Wilde, as much as I would have liked to put Shotzi Blackheart wrestling in her wedding gown as my good for this week, as much as I would have liked to put The Rock returning to TV. No. Bucky Beaver, thank you. Thank you. I never said thank you before, but thank you for leaving us.
Don't
let the door hit you on the way out.
Thank you, Mr. Willie. Thank you. You've made my day. Mama Fratelli, Goonies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. That was my good. And like I said, January 1st, 2024, it will be the quickest that anybody has ever won a Marquee Award. And that speaks volumes because Roman Reigns hasn't lost one award in 8 years.
Yes.
And even he did not win the Wettest Hair Award as fast as my mark out moment of the year.
Yes.
What do you got for your bad?
You know, it used to be a thing where Michael Cole being on a commentary team was kind of seen as a bad thing. And I think a lot of that actually had to do with Vince McMahon. I don't think it was a Michael Cole thing necessarily. Michael Cole has, specifically since Vince has been gone, has been much better.
Oh, absolutely.
Michael Cole's getting up there in age, and, they were specifically asking him to be on both shows. That dude doesn't need to be traveling that much at his age. He's been the lead in WWE for 25 years. For God's sake, he's been in WWE longer than JR was at this point. So I understand him coming off of Smackdown, but do we need to have Kevin Patrick once again as a lead announcer? Constantly out of breath. It seems like he's well-liked, and it seems like he works hard. That's great and all, but, no. No.
Wrong.
So I gotta go with Kevin Patrick. Becoming a lead announcer once again when you have a perfectly good and suitable Vic Joseph down in NXT.
Yes, I agree. I went a different route.
Okay.
Oh, you didn't know? The Road Dogg's getting my bad this week. For the record, I was going to put him as my Brainless for the fact that he came out, and it doesn't matter if it's where he came out and did this interview. The fact that he came out and did an interview and said that he was a better sports entertainer than MJF. Road Dogg, what memorable thing did you do in your entire career other than you did your stupid shtick every single time you were in the ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages? D Generation X proudly presents to you, it's WWE Tag Team Champions of the World! That's it. What memorable match have you had in your career? I'm waiting. I'm listening. You know, Billy Gunn's more over than you. Shawn Michaels is absolutely more over than you. Triple H is definitely more over than you. X-Pac is more over than you. China was more over than the Road Dogg. The Road Dogg is basically like the last guy on the bench on a championship team that wants to seem important because he won an NBA title or a World Series championship, even though he played no more than like 7 games in the infield. He's Dalvin Cook on the Ravens in Week 18. I'm just here for the accolades.
Not like Joe Flacco on the Browns right now.
Right. All I'm saying is you were what you were in the 90s and the 2000s. But like I said, what memorable match have you had in your entire career that you can be like, yeah, I can say that I did this? MJF is better than 90% of the people in professional wrestling right now, and he's not even close to sniffing 30. You do not have the athletic ability. You do not have the wrestling ability, because I couldn't name a freaking match you were in that I gave a shit about. You were the roadie at WrestleMania when I was there. You are not, and I repeat, you are not a better sports entertainer than MJF. Because MJF has taken shits that have had more ability in the ring than anything you've ever done. So, Road Dogg, you get my bad, and you almost got my Brainless, but you know me. What do you got for your Brainless, though, Cousin Jay?
I don't even remember if it happened this week or last week, but it was not mentioned on the show last week if it happened last week, but I think actually it was this week. Becky Lynch and Nia Jax had a match.
It was on Raw.
Once again, Becky Lynch gets busted open by Nia. She didn't break her nose this time, but, you know, clearly they have Nia on the ascent. Clearly the idea, I think it's going to be Nia versus Rhea, either Rumble or out in Australia. Possibly WrestleMania, but because, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, there have not been a lot of, like, what I would consider, like, real credible threats to Rhea when she's put the title on the line. Nia would be. But you're putting somebody who is extremely reckless in the ring and dangerous in the ring. Broke Becky Lynch's nose all those years ago, put her in the ring again, and then she popped her again and busted her open again. Nia Jax, come on. By the way, I know I sent it to you. There was a meme out there with Ben Affleck and J-Lo. And it shows like Ben Affleck like whispering. And it said, and like the little caption says, "Hey, you know you look like Nia Jax." And then like there's this face where like J-Lo like looks inflamed and like Ben Affleck's like cackling. And the thing is the face that Jennifer Lopez is making in that second thing, it's like going, her face is exactly like Nia Jax. Nia Jax's eyes and face are exactly that.
That meme was my favorite thing on the internet until I found the Tony the Snowman thing that I posted on the page the other day.
Yeah.
That was almost as good as when got ran over or got beat up by Punk and Ace Steel. Walking, and I forgot how it goes.
Cousin
Chris. Well, I would love to have given it to Nia Jax, especially because it was this week on Raw that she busted her face and won the match, by the way. And I thought I almost broke my TV for that.
Ugh.
But that's not the route I'm going to go. Because you know me, Cousin Jay, anytime I can sit there and just pig pile on freaking AEW and just keep giving them all the shitty things, I'm going to keep doing it. And I'm going to give it to one of their wrestlers.
Okay.
Not Tony Khan. You avoided this week, Tony Khan, but don't worry. There's going to be 51 other episodes this year that you can still get my Brainless at least half the time. But not for you for this week. It's going to Kota Ibushi. Kota Ibushi, who has been out of action with a broken ankle, decided that he was going to wrestle at the Noah show they just did with a broken frickin' ankle. Not only did Kota Ibushi have the worst wrestling match of his career and of his opponent's career, but he apparently broke his other ankle in the process and had to drag his feet back to the locker room and told them to call him an ambulance.
That's Vince McMahon level.
Like, what the fuck are you thinking? If you have injuries, you need to address them. You can't ignore them because it's only going to get worse. And you wrestling with one broken ankle and then breaking the other one is the worst thing that could happen.
One of the things Vince said and Triple H talks about is, as far as wrestling goes, as long as you could stand and walk, you could finish a match off. What was kind of their idea. If you got a broken ankle, guess what you can't do?
Can't walk.
Stand and walk. Dude.
Look, it was one thing when Cesaro or Claudio Castagnoli hit the top of the ring post and drove his two teeth into it. I mean, that's just... I will never say a bad man. I will not say a bad thing about that man ever. That dude is tougher, as Gorilla Monsoon used to say, he's tougher than a $2. I'm sorry, JR used to say, he's tougher than a $2 steak. That man's tougher than a 50-cent steak.
Yeah.
But to go out there with a broken ankle and just be like, yeah, I'm going to wrestle this match, embarrass your entire career having this match, and then breaking your other ankle. Kota Ibushi of AEW, you get the Brainless for the Brainless one this week. So if you liked what you've seen, whether you are a first-time watcher or a continuous fan, make sure you like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter X, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to us on YouTube at the letter T, the letter H, the letter E, the letter F, the letter N, MARKS, the F and Marks. If you like, follow and subscribe to us, we will do the same back. That has always been our
mantra. And make sure you set up notifications so that when we go live, you will be notified that we're going live, whether it's on the YouTube or on the Facebook or on the X. And make sure you subscribe to us also on Spotify. We drop the podcast there. So that way, if you have not seen it live, you can take it on the road with you and listen on one of those many, many different places.
I've done it. I've listened to the F and Marks podcast on the road. It was actually quite enjoyable.
Yeah.
Because at least one of the guys on the podcast has a sense of what needs to be talked about in professional wrestling and how to present it. And the other guy is a brainless idiot. I'll let you guys decide which one is which.
Turd Ferguson.
Turd Ferguson. That's not my name. But I think that's it, Cousin Jay.
Yeah.
I mean, we sit there and we teed off on Bucky Beaver, and it's just a damn shame that it took this long for him to just quit his damn job so he can go do some other damn activities and get out of my damn TV and out of my damn mind.
Damn.
we did our, we talked about all the people who are going to be moving around and all the signings and all that stuff, and how we saw Dolph Ziggler hop over a table, which also could have gotten some consideration for the good this week.
Yes.
And we did
Elijah's video.
And Elijah's video, and we had a couple of top 10 lists, and we did our good, bad, and brainless. I think that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing left for us to talk about. Absolutely nothing left for us to talk about. Not that there's any other sort of event coming in a few weeks that marks an anniversary of something.
20 days, to be exact. 20 days from today is the big one. But that's not what I'm here for. Then why are you here, Curtis Axel? Well, Brainless One and Cousin Jay, I just want to let you both know, with all of the fans of the F and Marks podcast, everyone's favorite wrestling podcast in the universe, today, January 5th of 2023, at an incredible 3,267 days, I, F and Marks Hall of Famer, is still alive in the 2015 Royal Rumble. And in 20 days, it'll be 9 years. As for episode 342 of everyone's favorite wrestling podcast, the F and Marks.
I'm Jay. He is today.
Oh, I'm the brainless one. I was looking at it, I was like, hey, it says Bucky Beaver still. Damn it.
Yeah, it does say Bucky Beaver.
I am Bucky Beaver, the brainless one, Bobby the Brainless, Turd Ferguson. But I am the brainless one. And make sure you mark out
with your guac out. See you, everyone. We'll catch you next week. Yeah.
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 Yeah.